I am doing fine. Bob Paul. Well, what would I like to talk about? I could talk about anything. How to improve baseball. Is it going to be a political topic or can it be sports? Well, first of all, I want to say the greatest baseball team of all time was 1975, Cincinnati Reds, of course. But that is not really a topic that is debatable. I mean, so other than that, I think there needs to be changes to the game. So I think there needs to be a clock. It needs to be DH. I think they need to limit the fielders shifting from one side of the infield to the other. Oh, wait. This is opposite day. I'm doing the opposite of what I think is good. They need to have a shorter season. Are we talking about baseball today? Baseball. They need to have a shorter season. They should not be playing games when it's cold out. Right. We need to bring back doubleheaders. Like every Sunday, have a doubleheader. It could be a day-night. I don't really care. That doesn't bother me any. Wow. You give me a heads up so you can take that call? You should put a robocall in the air and then talk to him. Did you? Oh. Yeah. Right. And I like your idea of making them stay. Once you step into the box, you got to stay in there, and you can't just back out between pitches. And all right. Do I need a heads up? All right.
I am fine. Is this Mr. Small? Mr. Small, I'm calling in from some distance I've been reading your blog, and I think you are undermining democracy. And I just want to make sure that you're aware that you're undermining the democratic and Republican democracy that we have in this country. We have two parties. We're a two-party system now, and have been since Millard Fillmore or somebody like that. And the two parties have aligned around different ideological structures, and they are serving the democratic principles of our country. You have a left-centered party, the Democrat Party, and you have a conservative reactionary, if you like, but a conservative party that is serving the needs and the interest of a electoral body that really believes those things. Donald Trump did not invent the positions that he espouses. He espoused positions that people got behind, and he is the most popular politician in the United States, and he's got a party completely aligned behind him. That's democracy. Now, you're talking about people, or you're talking about the voters? well, not in Chicago, but okay. I don't want to. Well, he is hearkening back to a older time of American values. He represents a religious segment of the evangelical and conservative Christian parties. Yes. To his great credit, he has never tried to represent himself as a theologian. I think some presidential candidates in the past have had that arrogance, but he does not. So he has never he's never held himself up to be any kind of theologian. Well, now, that's a little presumptuous of you. You know the values of Jesus? He liked wine, and that's about all I know. And he talked about driving out demons and putting them into pigs and driving those off a cliff. Well, he did. It's in the book. No, he drove demons out of people into pigs and then drove the pigs off a cliff. That's the Bible. It's kind of about 3 inches thick, 2.5, 3 inches thick. Well, look. Let's get back to democracy and Donald Trump, who is the most popular single politician in the United States, and he is aligned a political party, huh? Well, I was saying that we are a two-party system now, and Donald Trump is the most popular political personage in the United States, and he has aligned himself with one of these two parties, and these parties are very distinct, and they represent a large swath of American populace. And I think you're trying to undermine that. I think that you were trying to make the Republican Party into the Democrat Party, whereas the Republican Party is almost perfectly suited to represent the views of Donald Trump and people who support him, the Proud Boys and the QAnon enthusiasts, and certain evangelical religious groups who have formed underneath this umbrella that the Republican Party has created, and they're very united and very enthusiastic, and it's a very, very democratic process. And I think the Republican. Was it originally? No. Originally it was set up with no parties. Well, for a while there was one party. It was there was just the Democrat. It was the Democrat Republicans. The Democrat Republicans were the only party in the United States. It was a one party system for a very brief time. Yeah, that was a one party system. The Federalists, I think, only had one president, didn't they? Adams. Wasn't John Adams the last and only Federalist president? Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, so the Federalists had 1.5 presidents, but back to my point was that the Republican Party is an umbrella that is doing a splendid job of collecting a lot of aligned political positions, and it is very, very democratic and very representative of some very strongly held beliefs in the United States. Yeah. Well, it's a democratic process, Mark, or Mr. Small. Sorry, forgive me for the familiarity there. Well, you know how it is with media celebrities. Everyone gets familiar with them. But 74 million voters, and more than that number of people, but 74 million people actually took the trouble to get to the polls, really liked this guy, Donald Trump, and thought he's a righteous dude, and really support this man. Well, now that was another. Now that's another point I wanted to get to, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because you are subverting the democratic republican process that we have in this country. The nation is the Constitution makes it very clear that it's up to each state to determine who is going to vote. And you are opposing that and you and the Democrats are opposing that and trying to put national standards on these things when it was very clear that the Constitution intends that each state shall determine the means of collecting votes, and for that matter, the means of apportioning electoral votes. That's also up to the states. Well, but it is the state's constitutional responsibility to administer the election as they see fit. Okay, so for example, Iowa is cleaning up the fraud and corruption in the election process by reducing the number of hours that the polls are open each election day, rolling back so there's less hours open, so they'll have a cleaner, fairer election. And the Democrats are screaming bloody murder about that, and I think that's really wrong. It's not supporting our constitutional process, which says that the states have the right to set the election standards and to conduct the election as they see fit. And more power to the state of Iowa for cleaning up the electoral process by reducing the number of hours the polls are open. That will reduce fraud. That will reduce untold amount, all the fraud that goes on in the elections. Good gosh, you know that. My gosh, you're from Indiana. There hasn't been a fair election in Gary. There hasn't been a fair election in Gary since 1924. Anyway, it was more than have some say. They gave that responsibility to the states. Well, and Georgia is aligning behind the intent of the original framers. Thank you. I presume, in fact, what Georgia wants to do is neutral on the face of it. They want to eliminate fraud by tightening up on restrictions on absentee ballots, and that is certainly their prerogative, and that's their constitutional right. And so they're yeah, Mark, Mr. Small. It's very clear. It's Mr. Small. It's very clear that that Secretary of State was disloyal. Mhm. There are a number of people who were disloyal. They will suffer the consequences. Okay, there you are. There's fraud. So Mark Small just stated there was fraud. Two that they have found. They've already found two. How many more? How many more? So far, Mark Small just said that there was likely voter fraud. Dead people voted. Dead people's votes were counted. That's fraud. Well, you got to quit. You got to quit buying that cheap Rat Boy RD chili. Well, okay. I guess I really have two points of contention with you. Is one is I think you're trying to undermine the democratic process by trying to turn the Republican Party away from the racist, segregationist political views that many people hold, and that they are doing a very good job of representing, and that's called representative democracy. The system works. Yeah, but nobody's espousing that directly. They're espousing. Mm-hmm. Okay, well that's democracy. Your problem is that you don't like what your fellow Americans believe. That's your problem. You're not a Democrat. You don't support democratic principles. No, you're not. You're a Republican. I know you're an elected official of the Republican Party. Well, yeah, there's two ways to interpret that comment, isn't there? I don't know. John Adams. John Adams was sort of royalty. He kind of treated himself like the king. Um, but 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 no, it's quite all right. So you're saying that Donald Trump was very Jeffersonian. Um, yeah, I think Donald Trump was probably the smartest man that was ever elected president, and I mean that sincerely. The smartest man ever elected president. He, as far as I can tell, never read a book. Um, didn't listen to any advisors. Didn't read briefings. Took in very little information, and yet he was able to command the greatest power on earth for 4 years, get himself elected, win a primary over, gosh, I don't know how many Republicans started out, 17 or something, and went through that process, and it was able, and he was very quick on his feet, very glib, and he had a pretty good command of knowledge when he wanted it. Mhm. Yeah, where is he today? Well, I wouldn't know anything about debate, but I tell you, he knew the American people, he knew the American psyche, and he tapped into it. And if it hadn't been for the COVIDs, he would have been reelected. Despite all the power of the Democratic machine and all the Democratic operatives and all the Democratic money and all the unions, Donald J. Trump would have been reelected had it not been for the COVIDs. He ran for reelection under the toughest circumstances of any president ever. Far tougher headwinds than Jimmy Carter faced. He had a pandemic that just wasn't going away like magic, and he had the toughest circumstances in seeking reelection, and he darn near pulled it off. And if there hadn't been a bunch of electronic voting machines that were manipulated from an embassy in Italy, he probably would have won. If they hadn't manipulated the machines from Italy remotely, he probably would have won. Well, I think you're making fun of very serious charges that have been lodged against the electoral fraud that was committed back in November. Well, now there you go, Mr. Constitutional. You're always writing about the Constitution this, the Constitution that. And now, when it's inconvenient for you because it doesn't give you the results you want to undermine the Constitution. By the way, one of the principles of the Constitution is that we are going to favor small states. That was part of the compromise. That's why you got a Senate and a House. That's the 3/5. Yeah, I understand. Well, when we have a constitutional amendment, say each state gets one vote, and to be determined however the state legislature says it should be. You want to change? You just want to change the Constitution to favor your party. Well, to favor the Democrat. Forgive me, to favor the Democrat Party. It protects the rights of people in small states like Iowa and Montana, who would be completely ignored and swept over by cities like New York City by itself would take out Iowa, Nebraska, Montana. Well, and I think that's a fair system. So you give them a little bit of balance. It's a balanced system. It's a balanced system. You give a little bit of protection to the rural, low populous states so that they do get some representation in the process and they don't get completely overwhelmed by a couple big urban centers like LA and New York. It's a fair system, but it just isn't giving you the results. And you were fine with it when it gave you the results you liked. You never quibbled. But when it gives you results you don't like, you've got Barack Obama, you've got Bill Clinton, you got lots of results you like. Yeah, so when the system works, it comes out with the results you like, you support it. And when it does, the Electoral College, Barack Obama was elected president by the Electoral College. So when the Electoral College does what you like, you're all behind it. When the Electoral College does something you don't like, you're against it. And by the way, the Electoral College just elected Joe Biden as president, and you're okay with that apparently. Well, what was wrong with Jackson? He's a good man, general, war hero from Florida. And who didn't? And who didn't? They all did. Washington did. That's right. And when was the central bank reinstated? 1912 or something? So what year was that? So you're telling me that for 100 years the republic stood without a bank, and yet it was a dreadful thing that Jackson did to destroy it, and yet the republic flourished for 100 years without it. Well, there've been cycles since then, and the bank was formed, I think, in 1912 or something like that. Maybe it was under Wilson. It was under Taft or Wilson. J. Kenneth Galbraith, who was in that administration, said it was a coalition government of socialist and capitalist. He said it was his words were it's a coalition. It was a coalition government. Those are his terms of socialist and capitalist. That's what he said. No, you don't have to have socialism. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to enabling people, and that's what the framers want. They want us to be free individuals. They talk about freedom a great deal. All the founders did. And it's because they intended for people to be free and have free choices and not be constrained by government. Well, we're, bo- we're well, yeah, but we're more enlightened now, and we'd extend this laissez-faire freedom to everyone, to women, minorities, people of different religious backgrounds. We would extend this laissez-faire religious freedom to everybody. Laissez-faire capitalist freedom to everybody. Let everybody have their free choice. Give everybody a chance. Give everybody a chance to be a millionaire. Well, I was talking about economic laissez-faire freedom, and freedom of and from religion, I think, is part and parcel of those the freedoms that the founders intended. Okay, thank you, Mr. Small.